building, and it's really at the administration. People go and do all sorts of paperwork, like passport, like immigration paper, like getting their birth certificate. And earlier, some civil servants were trying to get there. The protesters were saying, "We won't let you in, we won't let you in." And I asked them, why won't you let them go back to work? And they said, it's because we don't trust the government. Who knows who can get into that building? It overlooks the square, and maybe they're going to start shooting at us. And I asked them again, I said, but you cannot forbid people from going to work. And they said, this is our big problem today. Who's going to win in this propaganda war going on?
Well, from what you can see overlooking the streets in general, does it look like people, I think we've still got about 45 minutes before offices open, but does it look like people are getting ready to return to some kind of normal life and get back to work or not?
Well, from what I can see here, it's very difficult, but I did talk to people on the outside, because really at this moment in time, there are two different Kairos. There is Liberation Square that is enthusiastic, determined to stay here until President Mubarak leaves his post. And there's the outside world who is really getting the brunt of it all, whose life has completely stopped, who is a bit confused on the way ahead. And from what I understand, in the outside world, people are quite happy that there is a return to normalcy. Now, they're also worried what will happen once there's a friction between the civil servants, between the employees and the demonstrators.
What do we know then about the rest of this week? What is planned in this so-called week of resilience?
Well, they say at the moment that they will stay here until he leaves. But I do know that there's a lot of sort of effort to take this to the next step. The protesters, the core who organized all this and who kickstarted this wave of demonstrations around the country, are very well aware that they need to now get more political. They need to find a group of people or someone that will represent them, that will go and meet with the authorities. It seems to me that at this stage, many would agree that just have President Mubarak leave, we will deal with Omar Suleiman, the vice president, under certain conditions. And I think at the moment, you'll also find another, if I may say it like that, sort of campaign going on, which is a bit of a struggle between, on one side, the Barade group, the other side, a group called the Wise Men, that include Amr Musa, and several other sort of senior figures of the country, on who is going to represent these youth. They're very well aware that they have to go to the next step, also because the other opposition parties in the country are quite well trained. It's the Muslim Brotherhood, it's the WAF, it's the Tagama. It's people who actually know the system very well. The youth here know that they need to now take it to the next step. And from what I understand, there have been all-night meetings on the square trying to figure out how to get out of that and give the legitimacy to whom.
That's very interesting. Perhaps we'll talk more about that later. But for now, let's thank our correspondent and continue, of course, with our coverage. Egypt's largest opposition group, the Muslim Brotherhood, as our correspondent mentioned there, reportedly saying it will, in fact, take part in political dialogue with the government. The group, officially banned in Egypt, had previously said it wouldn't join talks until President Hosni Mubarak resigned. Well, let's take a look at the controversial organisation that's been part of Egypt's political life for the last 80 years. Well, it was set up in 1928 by Hassan el-Banna, a school teacher and imam or prayer leader. It rejects the so-called Western influences and advocates a society founded on Islam and the 7th century law or Sharia. It was banned in 1954 after an attempted assassination of President Gamal Abdel Nasser. The group continued to operate as an underground movement and it distanced itself from violence. In 2005, Brotherhood candidates standing as independents won 20% of parliamentary seats. The group is officially banned from taking part in politics. But in last year's heavily criticised elections, it failed to win a single seat. Well, joining us now to discuss the developments in Egypt is Professor Mahjoub Zouairi of Qatar University's Department of Contemporary and Middle East History. Thanks so much for being with us. This is a huge development in not only Egypt's history, but for the Arab world, isn't it? Now, the talks between the government and the Muslim Brotherhood, because they've had trouble in almost every country they exist in, haven't they?
The relationship between Muslim Brotherhood and the Egyptian regime went through different stages. I think one of the interesting stages that was last 30 years, especially after Sadat, where basically
they were tolerated, but they've been repressed on and off, haven't they?
Absolutely. But I mean, under Mubarak, they were under increasing pressure to be isolated. They are not allowed to participate in any major elections. They were, I mean, the only achievement they did in 2005 in the elections, and after that we saw what happened in just
it was
last
quickly
election.
turned around.
Yeah, turned around. Yeah.
Do you expect these talks to actually go anywhere? What can we expect?
I mean, when I looked at the list of requests they have, I don't think so, because basically they are repeating what people are saying in the street. So
why are they engaging in it then?
I think they don't want to miss the chance that, because Omar Suleiman sent a very strong message that whether Muslim Brotherhood to be part of this, or actually they will be dismissed or isolated more. And I think they don't want to be really isolated. They don't want to be ignored more, because basically they want to respond to the pressure from within their own people as well, because there is pressure from within the Muslim Brotherhood organization itself. People in different cities, they say, why you are disappearing? We need you, and this is the minute you have to be joining the club, joining the efforts.
Is the issue of engaging with the government while Mubarak stays in power, is it splitting both the opposition and this protest movement?
Look, if the discussion or this kind of dialogue goes as we know now, it's based on these requests that, you know, first we discuss everything, but there will be no implementation until Mubarak leaves, there is no matter, no problem with that. But if this kind of dialogue goes on without major change, in particular Mubarak leaves, then there is a real, I think, problem within the whole movement.
How do you read then the situation? Are we coming to a point where there can be agreement on a transitional period led by Omar Suleiman, backed by the army?
Look, Sami, this revolution is absolutely different. I mean, if you compare it with the recent revolution, Iranian revolution in the region, there was a leadership. This revolution had lack of leadership. This leadership is being now formed. It's just day by day we are seeing this kind of leadership.
So it's still fluid?
Yes, until we see this kind of leadership formed, has one voice, we know who's speaking, we will see this kind of, I would say, instability on the movement, the whole movement.
It was very interesting to hear our correspondent there say they're discussing it on the streets of Meydan Tahrir. Yeah. Thanks so much, Dr. Mahjoub Zaweeri, for coming in.
It's my pleasure.
Well, Egypt's protests were spurred in part by those in Tunisia, but 3 weeks since the departure of that country's president, well, opposition politicians there say they're being harassed and left out of the political process. They tell us why in a moment. More heavy rain hampers the flood relief effort in Sri Lanka. Hundreds of thousands remain displaced. Taking a gamble and winning, Macau reaps the rewards as 25 million Chinese head to its casinos.
Hello there. Well, there's yet more wintry weather on the cards for us across the states. If we look at the satellite picture, we can see this area of cloud here moving away, and that's the tail end of that huge storm that gave us all that snow and ice. As this gradually clears away, though, behind it, there will be a little bit of a break for this eastern coast, but elsewhere, more wintry weather working its way down from the north, and that does include for us in Dallas. There could well be more flurries of snow there as we head through Sunday for the Super Bowl then. A little bit further south, and for most of us across the Caribbean, it's fine and dry. Cuba there and Haiti and the Dominican Republic getting away with a settled day. But meanwhile, a little bit further west, there'll just be the occasional shower there as you head down through parts of Nicaragua. Up towards Europe and in the south, it's now looking glorious. The north is very, very different, though. We've got a very brisk wind that's still bringing in lots of clouds and lots of wet weather too. So the temperatures are getting to double figures, but it's feeling far cooler than that. We're not really seeing much sunshine at all. Plenty more in the way of heavy rain there in the north as we head through the day on Sunday. But further south, that's where the sunshine is. 16 degrees, that's 61 in Fahrenheit for us in Madrid. And it will also be fine across the other side of the Mediterranean in Morocco as well. But further east, more showers there, just working their way across Libya Libya and into Egypt as well.
He's taken stolen goods and he's now dumping them onto the world without any sort of consideration for consequences.
From people making the news.
If the North will be saved a lot of trouble, I think it is important that they should come together.
To those it affects.
We do accept that there was very bad mistakes made in our banking area.
Behind the headlines.
Most South Koreans are not interested in reunification.